In a remote part of West Africa, surrounded by thick forests and rugged hills, stood an old boarding house named Ekutaba. The name meant gathering place, and it was a school where students from various villages came to learn and live. The house was grand and imposing, with tall walls made of weathered stone and roofs of corrugated iron that clanged in the wind. For years, Ekutaba had been a place of knowledge and camaraderie, but beneath its surface lay a dark and tragic history. Part 1: The Arrival. The tale begins with the arrival of a new group of students. Among them was a girl named Ayo, known for her bright smile and friendly nature. She quickly became popular among her peers, making friends with students from different backgrounds. The headmaster, Mr. Oko, was a strict but fair man who cared deeply for his students. He ensured that everyone adhered to the rules and maintained discipline. However, there was one rule that stood out, a rule that was never questioned: no one was to venture into the abandoned West Wing after sunset. The West Wing of Ekutaba had been closed for decades. Its windows were boarded up, and the doors were locked with rusty chains. Rumors circulated among the students about why it was off limits. Some said it was haunted by the spirits of students who had died there many years ago. Others believed that a terrible tragedy had occurred, one that had cursed the entire wing. Despite the warnings, curiosity often got the better of the students, and they would dare each other to approach the wing at night. One night, Ayo and her friends decided to challenge the rule. They had heard the stories and were eager to prove them wrong. Armed with a flashlight and a camera, they made their way to the West Wing. The air was thick with tension as they approached the chained doors. Ayo, the boldest among them, found a small opening in the boarded-up windows and crawled inside. Her friends hesitated but followed suit. Part 2: The Unveiling of the Curse. Inside, the air was cold and damp, and a musty smell filled their nostrils. The walls were covered in mold, and old furniture lay broken and scattered across the floor. As they explored, they stumbled upon a small room with a single bed and a desk. On the desk lay an old, dusty journal. Ayo picked it up and began to read. The journal belonged to a girl named Nandi, who had lived in the boarding house many years ago. As Ayo read aloud, the group discovered the tragic tale of Nandi and the curse that had befallen the West Wing. Nandi had been a brilliant student, loved by her peers and teachers alike. However, she harbored a dark secret. She was tormented by visions of a shadowy figure that only she could see. The figure whispered terrible things to her, filling her with fear and despair. Nandi confided in the headmaster, Mr. Oko, who dismissed her concerns as mere figments of her imagination. But the visions grew more frequent and terrifying, driving Nandi to the brink of madness. One fateful night, Nandi's screams echoed through the halls of Ekutaba. The students and staff rushed to the West Wing, where they found her standing on the edge of the rooftop, eyes wide with terror. She screamed about the shadowy figure, accusing it of tormenting her. Despite their pleas, Nandi jumped, ending her life. Her death shocked the entire school, and Mr. Oko, consumed with guilt, ordered the West Wing to be sealed off, hoping to bury the dark past. As Ayo finished reading, a chilling wind swept through the room. The temperature dropped, and the students felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The flashlight flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Panic set in as they heard faint whispers and saw shadows moving in the corners of their vision. Ayo tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. They were trapped. Part 3: The Haunting and the Tragedy. In the darkness, the whispers grew louder, and the shadows took shape. The students realized with horror that they were not alone. The shadowy figure that had haunted Nandi had returned, and it was not alone. The spirits of other students who had died in the West Wing appeared, their faces twisted in pain and anger. The air was thick with their despair, and the students could feel the weight of the curse pressing down on them. As the spirits closed in, the students huddled together, paralyzed with fear. Ao, holding the journal tightly, began to speak to the spirits. She begged for their forgiveness and asked them to release them from the curse. The spirits paused, and for a moment, it seemed as though they would be spared. But then, the shadowy figure appeared, its eyes glowing with malice. It reached out, and the room was filled with a blinding light. When the light faded, the students found themselves outside the West Wing, shaken but unharmed. The chains on the doors were still intact, and there was no sign of the spirits. However, Ao was missing. The students searched frantically, but she was nowhere to be found. They reported the incident to Mr. Oko, who listened with a grave expression. He knew that the curse had claimed another victim. Days turned into weeks, and Ao remained missing. The students were forbidden from speaking about the West Wing, and the incident was hushed up. However, whispers of the curse spread through the village, and parents began to pull their children out of Ekutaba. The once thriving boarding house fell into disrepair, and soon, it was abandoned altogether. Years later, the villagers spoke of the old boarding house, now a crumbling ruin. They told tales of a young girl named Ao who had disappeared, leaving behind only a journal filled with stories of spirits and curses. They said that on certain nights, if you listened closely, you could hear her voice echoing through the halls, begging to be freed from the curse that still haunted. And so, the cursed boarding house became a legend, a tragic tale of curiosity, guilt, and the consequences of disturbing the restless dead. The villagers warned their children to stay away, to never venture near the ruins, for fear of awakening the spirits that still lingered, waiting for their next victim.